Ever been tricked by looking at those reflection shots when cars look perfect in reflection? As people don't have the light facing the right way. I'm just masking this panel up, ready to fix this hammered panel by a body shop. If there's ever an example of, don't be fooled by what you see in a reflection if someone isn't putting a light on. It's smoke and mirrors. Top tip from me. The defects on this panel are sort of man-made in that there's a deep scratch I'll show you in a minute. There was a bush hedge, so that's the person driving too close to the hedge, but that's accidental. There is actually really bad marks in this panel. I actually don't know exactly why they've done it and how bad they've done it, but it's got buffer lines, holograms, sanding patches. It's terrible. So we have the normal swirls. I've got this really long scratch here that actually goes down the doors as well, but then there's another scratch there, but then I've got holograms, buffer lines, and then I've got some really matte patches. There's some sanding patches on this edge here. So let's tackle this lower half to start with of this panel. So because I've got some deeper marks and shallower marks, what I've done this time, I've gone for one pad, a pad that can go on all types of machines. So that's your gear driven or force driven dual action machines, your random orbital DAs as people call them, or your rotary. It's the purple foam all pad. This time, because of the small areas, I'm going for 3" because it makes sense, 3", but 3" all the time. This is on a dual action or random orbital polisher here, and here we have it on a rotary machine. So I'm going to use a rotary machine to round off a deeper part first. I'm going to look at where the deep mark is and focus on them areas, being very careful of this edge. We've got this mark through the middle. So I'm going to do a little area first, almost like a test patch. So my first pass will be slower, less pressure, less speed, less compound. So, turned it on, put my hand on there, make sure it's on flat. I'm going to put a little bit of compound on. I'm probably going to need more. I'm just going to do, like I say, a test patch, because I am now getting towards big guns, as they say, when it comes to the firepower, the cutting power, the cutting ability. So I need this towards the outside edge, because I am going to try and possibly tip a very small amount at the same time. So I'm going to get my light again to familiarise where this is. So I'm going to start the machine up at slow speed, pulling the trigger gently. If you notice in the pattern, I'm deliberately missing the delicate edge. I'm trying to work through the middle where the scratch is. What I'm going to do, this is going to have really quite strong buffer lines because it hasn't diminished down the compound. If it shows the buffer lines, I'll actually show you. So yeah, I've created some buffer lines, and it's possibly, I can just see it, you won't be able to see the camera, I can see where I didn't go over this edge, because unfortunately the scratch does actually go through that edge. So I'm going to work on that now properly. Quite hard to wipe this off. I don't care about micro-marring, rubbing hard, compound. I know I'm going to have to diminish this down. The scratch is nearly gone, hasn't gone over the edge. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over it once more, and then I'll bring you in. I'm going to put a little bit of compound on so you can see the visual change. little bit more there. It's gone completely there. It's nearly gone there. There's a bit there. So what I'm going to do, let's bring the camera around so you can see, hopefully, this area here. There's a white line there, and it's still whiter there. But through there, it has gone. That's enough now for doing the medium cut. So I need to do a little bit more there. It's hardly visible there. So we've got a little area there. This is the sensitive area where it's on this edge there. That is the problem area. So I have to be really careful, try not to go over the swage line too much. But obviously you can see all the buffer lines and holograms. They'll fix easy. I didn't diminish the compound down. I just run it while quite a lot of compound stopped early. At some point you have to say enough's enough. You have to call it a day when it comes to how brave you want to be without starting to do paint thickness readings, paint depth readings. And when you look at how bad this car is, if we've got an 80-90% improvement, that could be good enough. You can chase and chase and chase. Unless you know how to paint, you own your own body shop. You have to know your limits now. I mean, they're very rounded off, they're hardly there now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this pad off. I'll actually put it on this machine. So to show you, it's the same pad, but the same compound. Let's do that. I'm going to show you the difference of the machine action. I'm going to show you that one's circular, one's a haze. Tape it, let's wipe it and inspect. I'm going to actually use alcohol wipe so it really makes it obvious the difference, because I've seen a lot of people say that random auto polishers or dual action machines, as most people call them, are leaving the car dull, not shiny, not glossy, and they can't get the finish. So here is a really, really good example. You might even be able to see it from that angle over there, but let's get you round with the camera around the other side. So here we have the buffer lines from a rotary action, and as we come along, you'll notice it changes to a more hazy look. It actually looks duller, and it actually is. So you can see a lot of people prefer the rotary, especially body shops, and they always say they can't finish down as well with the dual action machine or the random orbital polisher when it's the same pad, same compound. As you've seen, I actually switched the pad over, so it's exactly the same pad, same compound. It's called diminishing compounds, or that's the answer, is the diminishing compound. So a compound that diminishes starts off the most aggressive, and with a cutting action, which in this case is just an abrading, rubbing action over the surface of the paint, will wear down in time. A rotary, depending on the size of the pad, has a large orbit because it's just rotating. But a random orbital polisher or dual action polisher isn't rotating. It can be, it's not rotating at all. Look, you see there, I'm holding it. So what it's doing is the circle of whatever that orbit of that machine is. If it's 12mm, 8mm. Whereas this can be anything from 0 up to whatever the diameter of the pad is. 3-inch pad. So we've got like a 75mm circle. So you've got a variable cut on a rotary, whereas a random orbital polisher, they're consistent. That does mean it's more gentle over the entire pad compared to a rotary, so the compound takes longer to diminish down. I find the random orbital overlapping haziness is actually easier to refine than the rotary defects. Both are quite easy to refine. Don't be scared if you see this dullness, which is what I've had on this side of the panel compared to this side. I would always prefer to see a haze than I would buffer lines. So now all the rough cut is done, all the heavy cutting. If you notice here, I switched over to the black SDO pad, so the finishing pad, and we're going with finishing compounds. So let's get that primed up a bit. And we're good to go. As a top tip, the corners and the edges, I would always work longer. This bit, when you're going over and over and over, you're overlapping. So I'm going to do one more pass. I'm going to concentrate more on the sort of edges. You'll notice my arm speed got faster. Started off slower and I sort of spread it faster and faster. As the compound diminishes down, it's becoming very, very oily. I can do very fast movements with a lower speed and zero pressure. That gives me an extra gloss, basically like this. As I said in other videos, when you're using a finishing pad and a finishing compound, it's so soft and gentle. I don't really have any issues. I don't have any sort of worries about going over the edge here. Let's unmask it. Wipe it down and have a look. It's looking great. Looking very, very good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn that light on there so I can see while I wipe. That's fine. So let's alcohol wipe it all. Only fair. I'm sure some of you would say, hey, you haven't wiped it down. There's a proper wipe, flooding the surface. Now it's gone grabby. You can see the cloth is grabbing. So there's definitely no oils or silicone. And let's get you around here having a look what I can see. So as you can see, this top half here, that top half there, that is where I said the heavy cut, the rough cut, that's the micro hazing from the dual action sort of random orbital pattern. And here is after when I've refined. So you can see it's a nice defined line. I've gone all the way along here, so it's the same up here as well. We've got a nice defined line there. So if I do that, you can see how it's got glossier. There's a sort of hazing there. But more importantly, let's start up this end of the vehicle. If we go to what the panel was like before, so here's the deep scratches, here's all the swirls, and as we go backwards, you'll better see now in that panel, it's not swirly, it's not got the deep scratches. That's fixed. And then if we really go down and low, we can show you how bad the rest of the car is in comparison. So there you go, you've got all this swirls on the rear part of this panel here. And then if you come back over to this part, you can see how it's gone really crisp and clean. So that's my task. It's going to be purple foam wall pad. Any very deep mark, I'm going to go over Rotary. Then I'm going to switch to random orbital mode. So you can see this haziness is not an issue to fix once you switch out to a black SDO pad, finishing pad and a finishing compound. So the next bit of footage you're going to see is me basically rough cutting and finishing this panel here. Let's get to it. That's my rough cut done now, all over that pillar there, so the whole area is done. Last thing is refine down with the SDO pad and finishing compound, same as I did down there. So don't forget, like, subscribe, stay tuned, carry on watching, loads more content to come. Thank you very much and goodbye.